Have you noticed that the diet tricks that worked in your 30s just don't seem to budge the scale anymore? Maybe you're eating the same as you always have, but the weight is creeping up. You aren't imagining it, but I want you to know right now you aren't broken. In this episode of Life After 55, we're going to talk about why the rules have changed. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I am so incredibly glad you're here for episode 20. I was thinking about that before I started. It feels like just yesterday that I was filming the first one, and here we are up to episode 20. So thank you for those of you who have been here since the beginning and those of you who have joined lately. Okay, but let's not talk about that right now. Last week, we dove deep into natural ways to manage diabetes, and the response was pretty amazing. Now, I'm Roy, and today we're connecting the dots by looking at the engine behind everything, your metabolism. So, before we start, let's get a little bit of housekeeping out of the way as we usually do. You can follow along on the screen if you would like, but this video is for educational purposes only. I am not a doctor, a medical professional, or a counselor in any way, shape, or form. The information that I share and provide here is based on my own research and my own experiences. This is not, and I repeat, this is not medical advice. And you should always, 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 always check with your healthcare provider, your doctor, or your medical professional before you try any new remedy or changing up your routine, especially if you are currently taking medication or if you are already managing a health condition. Okay? All right. So before we dive into metabolism, I have some big news. As I mentioned in the last episode, and this is more for those of you who weren't here for the last episode, but anyways, as I did mention in that episode, we are evolving. Starting on Tuesday, January 6th, this channel is officially rebranding to Life After 55, Health, Wealth, and Headlines. We are moving to a 1 hour live format, and every other Tuesday on both YouTube and X, formerly Twitter, we will be covering the natural health you love, but we're also adding segments on wealth using my background in tax and bookkeeping to help you navigate retirement and things like RMDs, taxes, etc., etc. Plus the headlines that actually matter to each of us, like Social Security, travel, helpful hints, and things like that. Just we're as far as the headline parts goes, we're not going to get into anything controversial like politics. I don't want to light a fuse with that, so we're going to stay away from that. But we'll get into other things that interest us. And you guys can always suggest if there's something you'd like to have me talk about. All right. But anyways, I am still searching for the perfect female co-host, someone between the ages of 45 and 65 to join me on this journey. Now, this is going to be a paid gig for that individual. So if you or someone you know has a passion for these topics, a heart for our community, and you're comfortable on camera, please reach out in the comments, or you can email me with the email address that's in the description, and it'll be at the top of this video, I guess over there. But anyways, but it'll be in the description nonetheless. All right. So let's start out with what is metabolism really. When we hear the word metabolism all the time, most of us usually think of it in the context of being fast or slow. I know, I've heard a lot of people say, oh, my metabolism has slowed down. My metabolism has slowed down. Or this guy's real skinny and he's got a fast metabolism. You need to think about your metabolism not as a speedometer, but as a chemical factory. It's the sum of every single chemical reaction in your body that keeps you alive. Okay, there's something called your basal metabolic rate, or your BMR, And that's the energy that your body uses just to keep your heart beating, your lungs breathing, and your brain functioning while you're just basically sitting around doing nothing. The big myth is that once you hit 50, your metabolism just dies, and that's not true at all. Recent science actually tells us that our cellular metabolism stays pretty stable from age 20 to age 60. So, why does it feel like it slows down? Well, that's because while the engine is still capable, the parts of the engine, specifically our hormones and our muscle mass, begin to change. Now, think of it this way: weight is the symptom, metabolism is the system. Okay? If we want to change the weight, we have to support the system. Now, the muscle connection is very important too, and I would say this is the most important part of this video. There is a term you need to get familiar with, and it's called sarcopenia. Okay? That's just a fancy word for age related muscle loss. After age 30, and this is just one of those facts of life that none of us can fight, but after age 30, we can lose between 3 to 8% of our muscle mass per decade. Okay? So you're looking at, by age 30, you're starting to lose between 3 and 8, let's just say 5% of your muscle mass every decade. By the time you've hit 50, you've lost, 10% already. 55, 60, you've lost 20%. So by the time we hit 50, that process starts to get faster and it accelerates. And why does this matter for weight? Well, it matters because muscle is expensive for your body to keep. It takes a lot of energy, i.e., calories, just to maintain muscle tissue. Now, fat, on the other hand, is cheap. It basically just sits there as stored energy. And look up at this chart here. You see a pound of muscle versus a pound of fat. The pound of muscle is much smaller, and the pound of fat is obviously much larger. Which should give all of us. I'm sure we don't need this visual to. I mean, I know I don't. I have that fat that you see on that scale around my midsection. So. But if you have less muscle than you did 10 years ago, your factory is smaller. And what that equates to is you're burning fewer calories every hour of the day. And this is why, if you just eat less, that doesn't work for us anymore. We don't need to starve ourselves. We need to give our body a reason to keep the muscle. Okay? And you don't need to be a bodybuilder. I mean, simple resistance things like you can, I'm not saying go out and buy a weight set or anything like that. Just start moving around, like I've said in a lot of these videos. Do some exercises. You can, like a lot of people I know have dumbbells and stuff, and they use those. I've seen people when they're walking they walk with the dumbbells and stuff, and that's great. But if you're somebody who can't, you're not mobile, you can't go out, or you're in inclement weather or whatever, or you don't have dumbbells, you can use anything. You can use like soup cans. You can use resistance bands. Even if you just get up and down out of your chair 10 times, any of those things tells your metabolism, hey, we need this muscle, so don't burn it off. Okay? And again, the muscle, if it's not being used, it's just going to be converted into fat and everything. And that's where we're having problems here, all of us, me included, me at top of the list. All right, so let's get into some natural boosters and the metabolic plate, so to speak. And let's talk about what we put into our bodies. Now, again, in this episode, I want to give you 3 specific natural remedies for your metabolism. And the first one is the protein lever, or what I call the protein lever. As we get older, our bodies become anabolically resistant. That's just a fancy way of saying we aren't as good at turning protein into muscle as we used to be. Again, one of the one of the sad things about, getting older. It's part of life. It is what it is. So we got to deal with that. And rather than be discouraged and say, "Oh, I can't do nothing," da, 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 we work on that slowly and surely. We all encourage each other, and we we keep going. Um, but anyways, to counter that, we need more protein, not less. If you aim for like 25 to 30 grams of protein at breakfast, that can wake up your metabolism. That alone can wake up your metabolism for the day. Okay? There's something they call the thermic effect of food. And what that is I don't know if you knew this or not, but your body burns calories just digesting food. So protein has the highest burn rate, which is about 20 to 30% of the calories in protein are burned just during digestion. So, again, that's why you'd want, more protein. And it's like jump starting a battery in a car. If you have 25, 30 grams of protein in the morning, um, it'll help jumpstart your digestion, and you're going to start, burning calories slowly but surely. And again, none of this is going to happen overnight. You didn't, get, I mean, let me talk for myself. I did not get this, what my mom used to call a beer belly. I didn't get that overnight. That's come over years of not taking care of myself and aging and not even, realizing it while it was happening until one day I looked and was like, oh man, I missed the boat here. But anyways, another thing is herbal tea. Green tea contains EGCG, which helps the body break down fat. Now, EGCG is, and I may butcher this because this is a big scientific name, but it's epigallocatechin. I think that's how you say it. Galley. That's what the ECGC stands for. Or EGCG. I'm sorry. See, I'm even confused on the initials now. Um, anyways, that is a powerful antioxidant compound. It's a type of catechin that's most abundant in green tea, and it's known for protecting cells from damage by neutralizing harmful free radicals. Now, they've been studying it for potential benefits in reducing inflammation, aiding weight management, supporting heart and brain health, and even having antiviral properties, often available in supplements or derived from green tea extracts. Um, so, I mean, if you don't like green tea, you can get it from, again, one of those herbal stores that I have mentioned in prior things. I'm sure you can get it off of Amazon. I haven't looked, but I would assume you can get it off of Amazon.com. You can probably get it off of Walmart.com. And I'm sure there's plenty of other places where you could probably get it from. Okay. And then ginger. Now, I know ginger is pretty easy to get. You can get that in your local grocery store. At least I can, and I would assume everybody else can too. It's a natural thermogenic, meaning that it slightly raises your body temperature, which is a good thing because it's starting to burn calories. Now, another thing that I talked about last week was apple cider vinegar, and I mentioned that in the diabetes episode last time. And I was telling you how disgusting it is, at least for me. And, it's just not something you would drink if you didn't, I mean, wouldn't be your choice of drink, let's put it that way. And I do it straight. And then, somebody suggested to me last week, why don't you dilute it in a glass of water? And I was like, duh. I didn't even think of that. But, I since then started doing that. So if you take like a tablespoon, I was just doing a teaspoon before a meal and straight. And now I'm doing a tablespoon and then like an 8-ounce glass of water and diluting it like that. Again, it still isn't the most pleasant thing to put down, but if you've ever had a colonoscopy, that stuff that they make you drink beforehand is not pleasant either. This is probably equivalent to that without the after effects. Anyways, a tablespoon mixed in a glass of water before a meal, and you should do this before you eat, by the way, too. But before a meal keeps your insulin steady, and when your insulin is low, your body is in burn mode. All right. When it's high, you are in store mode. All right. And again, another thing that we talked about was stress. So we're going to touch on that again in this episode now. You can eat perfectly and exercise every day, but if you are not sleeping, your metabolism is going to struggle. So it's really important to get a good night's sleep. Try for at least 6 to 8 hours of sleep. I know some people can sleep, some people can't. But if at all possible, try to get a minimum of 6 hours, preferably 8 hours every night if you can. And one of the ways to combat that if you're having trouble going to sleep is to start going to sleep, at the same time every night, like make it a routine, 10 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, whatever time it is you want to go to bed. Do that consistently every night. Like I've said in the past, turn off your phone, turn off your computer, turn off your television, turn off all the distractions, sit down, an hour ahead of time, read something, meditate on something, think of good things. All those things are going to help you to fall asleep, better. Because when you don't sleep, there's a hormone called cortisol, and we definitely talked about this last episode. And your cortisol goes up when you don't sleep. And that, like, if in case you don't remember, or as a refresher, cortisol is your stress hormone. For those of us over 50, high cortisol tells the body to store fat specifically in the belly area to protect our organs. And, I think personally, that's another thing. Like, I don't get that kind of sleep a lot of times. I mean, I've gotten better with that as well. But in the past, I think that was part of what led up to what, again, my mom refers to as a beer belly, or used to refer to as a beer belly. But again, this is a survival mechanism from ancient times. When the cortisol goes up, it stores the fat. Today, it just gets in our way. It's no longer, a survival mechanism. Today, it basically just gets in the way of our health. And, there's been times, and I'm sure we've all had these times where you couldn't get any rest because you had an important thing at work or at school, or a family obligation or something where you didn't get much sleep. You were running around. That's kind of like me during tax season. It gets pretty, hectic for that time period. And there are nights where I don't get much sleep. But, I'm sure each and every one of you listening has had some sort of a deadline where you've lost sleep or whatever. And when you do that, when that happens, the next day you're not as good. It affects your energy negatively. And it also, makes a lot of people, including me, crave stupid things like, snacks or whatever to keep me going with the faded belief of, or the wrong belief, I guess I should say, of, well, if I have something, if I eat something, even if it's garbage, it'll keep me going, and, that's kind of one of the side effects of not getting enough sleep and stuff. So try and get some sleep, a good night's sleep, as much as you can. That's going to help you a lot. You'll be surprised. Okay, so that's going to do it. To wrap things up for this episode, remember your metabolism isn't a fixed number you're stuck with. It's a living, breathing system. Now, by adding a little bit of movement, prioritizing protein, and managing your stress, you are giving your body the tools that it needs to run efficiently again. And you'd be surprised how much this is going to help you start losing weight. When you think about it, your body has taken care of you for over 50 years now. It's seen you through a lot. Now's the time to give it the specific care it needs for this next chapter in life. Okay? All right. So don't forget our big launch of Health, Wealth, and Headlines is coming up on January 6th at 7 p.m. That's going to be Eastern time. I'm really, really, really looking forward to that live interaction with each and every one of you. I am, for real. I can't wait to start this. Hopefully, I can get a co host right off the bat, but that may take an episode or two in. So it might just be yours truly for the first episode or two. But hopefully, we can find a co host. All right. And I can't let you go today without mentioning that Christmas is next Thursday. For me, I'm recording this a week away from Christmas, exactly 7 days from Christmas. So I want to wish each and every one of you a very Merry Christmas and a safe and a peaceful holiday season. And I do hope that you will take the time to truly enjoy and cherish every moment with your loved ones. You know, it's I'm sure a lot of you remember the old Kodak commercials or Polaroid, whatever it was, where they said, a memory is once in a lifetime. And that's true with holidays and time with our loved ones. So hopefully you make the best of it and cherish every moment. Okay, and as we celebrate too, let's all take a moment to reflect on the real meaning of Christmas, which is the birth of our Savior and the message of hope that he brought to the world. And I'll tell you, in this day and age, this world could use all the hope it can get, at least in my opinion. But in the hustle and bustle of the season, let's all remember to be kind to one another. A little bit of grace and a kind word to somebody can be the greatest gift you can give them this year. You never know. All right, so make sure you tune in next time because as we head into the new year, I am going to share why I am throwing resolutions out the window and what we should be doing instead to truly renew our health for 2026, okay? Because let's face it, we're all past the resolution thing. We've seen way too many of those fail, at least I have. And I would venture to say I am not alone. So yeah, we're going to throw resolutions out the window, but I am going to instead talk about what we should be doing rather than resolutions, and we're all going to get our health. We're all going to work towards better health this year, or this upcoming year. So again, I want to thank you so much for being part of this journey with me for these past 20 episodes, including this one. And if you found this helpful, please hit the like button. Share it with somebody who might benefit from it, and subscribe. We're up to, I think, 420 subscribers now. We were shooting for 500. I would certainly still like to hit that. So again, like, share, subscribe, okay, if possible. If you liked it. If you didn't, well, I can't ask you to do that. But anyways, I am Roy, and I am going to see you again in the next episode, which, by the way, will probably be the day after Christmas. And I know a lot of you guys are going to be traveling. You're going to be busy, so I don't expect, multitudes to be tuned in next Thursday or the day after Christmas. But, when you get a chance, watch the next episode. It's going to be a good one. It will. Like I said, we're going to be throwing resolutions out the window, and we're going to talk about how we're going to do it without resolutions. All right. With all of that said, let me be quiet because I'm rambling on now. But with all of that said, seriously, Merry Christmas to everybody, and God bless each and every one of you. I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.